Howdy everybody, we're back with some more RPG horror stories. Let's jump right into it. Our first story was suggested by Crazed Alaska and is from Reddit user Chestbridge and is titled The Short but Horribly Annoying Life of Aladdin the Paladin, Dramatis Personae. DM, a talented but inexperienced DM, his only flaw might be his leniency towards problem players. Me, playing a half-elf druid, sorcerer, mostly just an unfortunate bystander to what will unfold. Aladdin the Paladin, very creatively named human paladin. Please take a guess whether he'll be a problem down the line. Well, the title has it in it, so I assume Aladdin the Paladin is going to be the problem. Monk, the poor guy who is going to suffer the most. At one point in the story, he'll literally throw his player's handbook at Aladdin. Please hold back on judging him too harshly until you read further. Nobody got hurt, at least out of game. Without further introduction, I'll let the words and deeds of Aladdin the Paladin speak for himself. Our level 1 characters met at a wizard's tower. The old mage needs help with some busy work and is hiring adventurers, promising gold as a reward. Me, looks like we're going to work together on this. I'm Denarius of the Silver Forest. Pleasure to meet you. Aladdin the Paladin.
I'm Aladdin the Paladin. I am a force of the law.
Monk. Wow, what a name. I am Aladdin the Paladin, angrily interrupting the monk.
Yes, that's my name, okay? I'm Aladdin the Paladin.
He looks like he's thinking hard for a moment before he continues.
My parents were bards. They liked rhyming.
Monk. Okay, so they knew you'd become a paladin when they named you? Aladdin the Paladin.
Well, yes, okay. They gave me away to a paladin order when I was little.
That, by the way, is literally everything we're going to learn about Aladdin's backstory during the rest of the campaign. I'm sure he has a well fleshed out character. Me, no need to get agitated about simple introductions. Let's just hear about our wizard's host needs from us. Okay, so Aladdin is clearly a joke character, which isn't a horrible thing necessarily. They can be fun. Hopefully that angry interrupt was just them dramatically RPing and not them being a dick to other players at the table, but time will tell. And so we went on our first quest, fetching some magical ingredients from an abandoned mine, which of course was infested by some low-level monsters. Everything went fine. We looted some gemstones and leveled up. Together with the wizard's pay, we had earned ourselves 1,500 gold pieces. That's a lot of gold for 4 level 1 players. I'm not sure if this was a dungeon crawl or this economy's super weird or the DM was just super lenient with the amount of gold he gave out, but I feel like 1,500 gold for a first quest gathering magical ingredients is a tad much, but I'm nitpicking here and I really shouldn't. Aladdin the Paladin.
Give me the money. I want to buy plate armor.
Monk. No, we're splitting it up evenly. Everyone gets their fair share. Aladdin the Paladin.
What do you need money for? You're a monk. You don't use weapons or armor. And the druid can't use metal items. And the sorcerer doesn't have to pay for new spells. So I'm the only one with proper use of this money.
Monk. We know each other for 3 days now. There's no way I pay for your armor while I get nothing out of it. Me. Let's all calm down. I don't have much need for material wealth right now. I'll lend you my share, Aladdin, if you want to save up for better armor to protect us all. You can pay it back later. Aladdin the Paladin.
No, I'm not borrowing money. Money lending is evil. I am a force of the law.
Me. Okay, it was just an offer. I have no clue what led to this outburst and his hate of money lending. Maybe some weird anti-Semitic stereotypes? No idea. I'm not sure why we're jumping on the anti-Semitic train immediately. I mean, it's quite clear that Aladdin is greedy, and the DM should be stepping in to make sure lines are drawn. Some players kind of need a line in the sand they cannot cross. Like greed especially I find is an issue with newer players. Like they want all the gold or all the magic items. Like sometimes you just have that one person in the group who's just like, I want to get all the loot. And was like, for some reason, willing to be a complete dick and just steal all the loot for no fucking reason at all. Not like thinking ahead for 5 seconds that the rest of the party ain't gonna like that. Like they think it's more like a single player RPG where you are the quote unquote party leader collecting all the loot and not you having to split it up evenly between your entire adventuring party, you know, who are all there adventuring with you. Monk. So we're splitting it up evenly. I want to save up for some magic items the wizard has for sale. DM. All right. Anything else you guys want to do while you're in town? At this point, while Sorcerer Monk and I do some shopping, Alan the Paladin is passing multiple notes to the DM. DM, are you sure about this? I mean, you're lawful good, right? Alan the Paladin.
Yes, it's in the service of good.
DM rolls his eyes visibly. All right. Once all of you meet up again at the market, you notice Aladin appearing from a dark alley, parting ways with a sleazy-looking half-orc. Monk, what did you do with that half-orc? He looks like a criminal. Aladin the Paladin.
I bought some drugs.
Everyone, what? Aladin the Paladin.
Since you won't let me buy my plate armor, I need to find another way to quadruple the gold.
Monk, so much for your I am the law tagline, and how do you even plan to resell it for quadruple its value? Aladin the Paladin.
I'll dilute it with sawdust to quadruple the amount and then resell it.
Monk, and so much for your I oppose evil tagline as well. Aladin the Paladin.
Shut up, idiot. Every drug addict is evil anyways, so if they die from the diluted drugs, it's still a victory for good.
Me. Are you sure this is a good idea? Aladin the Paladin.
If you misers would just buy me my plate armor, I wouldn't have to do this, so shut up.
Okay, I feel like we're in oath-breaking territory here. DM's clearly new, so I don't want to hound them for it. But if a lawful good paladin is acting like this, they're not very lawful. Unless, of course, illegally selling drugs is legal and, with the law, but then it wouldn't be illegal? The game continues, as does Aladin with his stupid plan, passing notes once in a while with the DM while we finish up our business in town. We take up our next quest from our new wizard patron and journey towards our new destination. Once we leave town, we get ambushed on the road. DM, the leader of the heavily armed band of thugs shouts at you. How dare you try to intrude on the drug trade in our town? Give us our fair cut or pay with your lives. Aladin the Paladin.
No way, criminals! You will perish in the name of the law!
Monk, I'm not going to risk my life for this bullshit. Aladin the Paladin shouting.
My good friends here, and I will send you to hell where you belong, evil scum.
Me. I guess Aladin just included us in this fight. So we fought. It was a mess. Monk was taken out during combat, but DM was lenient, so some of the thugs dragged him away instead of outright killing him. Sorcerer, Aladin, and I barely defeated the rest of them, but the kidnappers got away. Okay, so clearly there are consequences for actions here, and I dig it. Unfortunate that the monk ended up suffering those consequences, though. Something like this could potentially break up an adventuring party quite early if you're not careful. It might not hurt to talk above table that another PC's shenanigans so early on are clearly causing issues with the party. Is this type of crap, if it is continuous and every single fucking session, could get very annoying fast for those who are not Aladin the Paladin. Aladin the Paladin.
We would have easily defeated them if I had proper armor.
A while later, we have healed up and tracked the escaped thugs back to their hideout on the outskirts of town. After some tense moments and successful stealth rolls, we managed to break into the criminal hideout. Sorcerer, who was mostly passive up to this point, having his best line of the campaign. Good thing you don't have plate armor, Aladin. Otherwise, you'd have probably failed your stealth check. Okay, that's just funny. That's a good pun. That is a good pun. I like that. That's good. A little meta, but it's good. We managed to take out some resting thugs undetected, find the unconscious monk, and finally find all of the monk's belongings locked away in a chest. And the paladin.
Great. We'll take the money and split it up evenly. With that in my drug profits, I think I can afford the blade armor. Monk doesn't get his share since he didn't help us here.
Me, dude, it's his money. Okay. DM needs to step in and make it clear that they're not going to be stealing from the monk. This is stealing from the monk. Unless the party is okay with stealing from one another, this is going to get out of line quick. Players get defensive of other players trying to fuck over their characters directly. And it's understandable. It's a human reaction. You care for this character. You are playing as this character. So if you are a character, especially one in an adventuring party that's risking their lives, and somebody is trying to fuck you out of your money in a way like this, yeah, you're gonna be pissed. Yeah, you might want to get a little violent. It's understandable. DM really needs to rein this shit in, because it could go real bad real quick. Aladin the Paladin.
We're in a kind of dungeon, and it's loot from a chest. Monk insisted that we split everything we find evenly.
If you guessed that this was the moment when Monk threw his player's handbook, you'd be correct. Okay, I personally wouldn't throw the book, but I also haven't had to deal with Aladin for however many hours they've been playing this campaign. I'd personally get the DM to weigh in here. They, the DM, should be laying down the law here. The DM should be going, Aladin, your character, one, as a lawful good paladin, isn't going to steal from another party member. That's immoral. And also, two, Aladin's player, hey, we're going to play fair here. We are going to split everything else evenly, but you are not stealing from other party members. You have to go, hey, yeah, you're in a dungeon, but you are rescuing the monk. This is clearly the monk's property. You are not going to steal from the monk. That sort of actions are not allowed in this campaign. You will not be able to do that. And they need to step in and go, fuck no, that's not happening. Politely or impolitely. Sometimes you have to just lay down the law, and that's not a fucking pun intended. DM, your loud argument has alerted the rest of the sleeping criminals. You hear their footsteps and shouting coming towards your direction. At this point, we postpone the argument, grab Monk and his stuff, and beat it. Sorcerer and I have disadvantage on athletics because we're carrying Monk and his belongings. But we manage to escape. Aladin, however, rolls a natural 1. DM, is anyone going to stop and help him? Me, nope. Sorcerer, nope. Aladin gets surrounded by angry thugs, tries to fight them, curses us and our evilness for leaving him alone, and dies an inglorious death. This time, for some reason, the criminals don't take prisoners. That's the end of the short but horribly annoying life of Aladin the Paladin, and it's the end of this horror story. If you guys are interested, please let me know. I'll write up a sequel to this, a sequel about Aladin the Paladin's brother, Raladin. I get wanting, as the DM wanting to kill off Aladin the Paladin. Very annoying, very piece of trash as a PC. But the real issue is not Aladin, it's Aladin's player. So getting rid of Aladin does not solve anything. It just postpones the inevitable annoyance, because Aladin's player is going to bring someone new to the table. DMs and the party need to talk it out with Aladin's player to either curb the behavior or get out. Otherwise, they're going to be dealing with Raladin the Paladin or Ard the douchebag bard or whatever. And you don't want to keep dealing with that over and over and over and over. Nip it in the bud early. That way it doesn't ruin your table, because if it does, someone will hit their breaking point. And because nothing's being done to get rid of Aladin's player, they are going to remove themselves from the equation. And that could cause your table to crumble. Don't put up with that sort of behavior. Unless you want some sort of weird, crazy, psychotic, chaosy, freeform campaign like that, in which case, fucking go for it. But that's clearly not what everybody wants here. Everybody is clearly annoyed. So you all need to group together, or the DM needs to buck up and go deal with it. Because it's not going to end with Aladin. It never just ends with Aladin. Okay, if you guys are interested, please check me out on twitch.tv/VanDavy. Links are in the description. I stream throughout the week, playing a lot of Arc Raiders right now. Loving that. We do play a variety of games. I would love to hang out with you. Again, links are in the description. I hope to see you guys all there. Next story, though. Our next story is going to be from user Bindming and is titled Realistic Rules, Unfair Character Deaths, and Disrespect. I mispronounced that name. Thought I'd share this event that happened 5 years ago. It's 2019 to 2020. I was part of a Storm King's Thunder campaign. 4 of us were pretty new to the game, but the DM and another player were very experienced and good friends. We were over North America and Europe, so we used the Roll20 platform. Some of the details are foggy in my memory, but I'll try to be as close to reality as possible. This takes place over one long campaign and an attempted one-shot. Part 1, the players. Jake, the DM, very experienced player and DM, cared about, quote, realism above all else. Craig, who's a ranger, an extreme min-maxer slash optimizer, largely our party leader, who dealt extremely high damage throughout the campaign, largely eclipsing the rest of us. Lila, who's a druid, first-time player who's very excited about the game and motivated to play. She created a very vivid background for her character, tried to get it woven into the narrative, very smart player, fun to play with. She clearly cared about her character and put a lot of thought into her personality and features. Sarah the Rogue, first-time player, but very timid, happy to tag along. Jan, wizard, who's a cool guy, fairly new to D&D, quite proactive, fun to play with. Myself, who is a rogue, pretty new player, second campaign I've played, initially very involved, especially in the RP, but gradually checked out and became very passive. At the time I played an arcane trickster and was not very powerful in combat. You'll understand why later. By the end, I tagged along because I liked the people. There were signs even before session 0 that this campaign would be a grind. Every decision I made during character creation was scrutinized. Some abilities were not allowed because the DM deemed them to be OP, and I was not allowed to pick a variant human because it was too much of a power boost, the DM insisted. It seemed to only be a problem for me though. I wrote a backstory, but none of its components were referenced in the main story. In fact, the DM gave me a tie-in and told me that some NPC might have some information, but after painstakingly interviewing him and trying to bribe him and trying to intimidate him, he gave me nothing. Not even any indication that he had any information whatsoever. Okay, some of these descriptors worry me for some of the above participants, mainly the DM and Craig here. Hopefully realism-focused DM here was upfront about their focus on realism when it came to their campaign. Because let me tell you, a realism-based campaign can be quite jarring, especially in a world of fantasy. I can also foresee how they're going to rule on things. Also, power gamers and heavy optimizers can be very difficult for first-time players to play alongside, especially if they aren't guided to help make their characters better. And as a new player, it can be a huge letdown to watch as another player somehow the best at combat, and their potential combat-focused character is struggling to keep up because they didn't follow a guide on the internet about how to get their ranger to become cracked out as hell. I can understand banning Variant Human as a feat at level 1 because it can be quite strong. Free feats can be quite potent depending on what you pick. I personally don't ban them, but I get it. Especially if your goal is to try to balance the party's power out, but I don't think that's the case here at all. I'm curious what abilities this DM deemed to be too powerful outside of Variant Human. I'm not a fan of the fact that the DM was combative towards OP for trying to get their PC to fit the campaign, or what they were trying to build into and all that. And then they teased this backstory tied NPC, and that person ended up having nothing. That sucks too, like not a crumb of info. DMs, just as a note, don't tease a backstory NPC and then have nothing come of it. It's a great way to tell your players you don't give two shits about their story, and it's a great way to get them to check the fuck out and stop playing. On the flip side, Craig never seemed to have limitations imposed on him, and early in the campaign, he was regularly dishing out 40 plus range damage on his turn, and his character was somehow always an important linchpin to the narrative. The DM also decided that we would use the, quote, gritty realism rules. Long rests would take a week, short rests would take 8 hours, everything else would be, quote, realistic too. I have had a PC be tied to the main narrative, of the campaign, and be a main driving force in it. Usually towards some overall, BBEG that they're trying to fight. But you have to make sure if you do that, you give the other players good spotlight time if that's their thing. I personally try to have little mini arcs that wrap in other players' backstory stuff while having some overall big bad that is plotting and planning in the background and quite possibly tied to one character's backstory. Also, it is quite clear that Craig is the DM's favorite. DM didn't shut down their 40 range damage per turn ranger. I can understand the lengthening of downtime though for short rests, long rests, stuff like that, like those quote unquote greedy rules and all that. It can make for a much more tense campaign where resources are harder to come by and deciding to rest can have big consequences. This style might work better in a campaign where you either want the difficulty to be spiked or don't run a ton of combat. So then if your PCs blow their wad every combat, there's a downside to doing that, or a required downtime to get those resources back for them outside of we take a nap overnight. The first few sessions were fun. The DM was very good at describing what was happening, gave life to the various NPCs that were met along the way, though Craig was very much monopolizing the game with his bombastic persona, establishing him as the de facto leader of our party, and he frequently rebuffed and disagreed with other players, to the point where Sarah quickly stopped trying to argue with him. Okay, the arguing and being my way or the highway is a major issue. The DM should be taking note and putting a stop to it. He clearly won't though. Craig is his favorite. And no, being new is not a reason to not participate or a reason to talk down to somebody. Even if the ideas won't work in the framework of the rules as they're being interpreted, you want to encourage new players to think and participate. If it gets them involved in the game, it gets them to learn the rules, the world, the system, etc. And it gets them to become longtime participants in the game by creating that buy-in. Even if you say, hey, I like your idea, it's not going to work, maybe this will instead, you're encouraging them to think more outside the box. You're letting them know these are the boundaries, and it keeps them flowing, and it doesn't hurt them for not coming up with an idea or coming up with an idea. Because the last thing you want to do is start punishing people for coming up ideas. If you slap their hand every time they try to participate, they will refuse to participate. Eventually, I also submitted to it because he was consistently proven right. He always pushed for the murder hobo route, and he was consistently vindicated when attempts at any other approach fell flat, either due to the DM personally not being swayed by our attempts at diplomacy, or the very high skill checks he set. So we fought and killed everything, going multiple sessions between long rests. This meant that our wizard would regularly spend 6+ hour sessions with no spell slots and no way to get them back. I was playing an arcane trickster and none of my spells were effective anyway, because the enemies almost always had some sort of way to determine that illusion magic was illusion magic, or to circumvent everything I did. Mirror images were obvious. Everything saw me when I was invisible. Any attempt at creative solutions to problems was met with,
No, it doesn't work.
NPCs were always too smart to fall for tricks, too angry to be reasoned with, etc. Meanwhile, our ranger continued to obliterate everything in his way. Ouch, this DM is clearly a stick in the mud. Like, okay, illusion magic in 5e, let's just chit-chat about it real quick. So most spells that are illusion-based can be determined to be fake and illusions, but it requires an investigation check by the person, entity, whatever, viewing it against the DC of who cast the spell. They don't just auto-know, unless everyone in this world somehow has a passive investigation of 20 or more, which if so, the DM needs to balance that out, because there's no way a common farmer looks at an illusion and goes, yep, definitely fake. Combat focused campaign isn't necessarily a bad thing though, but the DM should be clear on that ahead of time and be like, hey, I prefer to have things solved with violence. So your best way to solve everything is with violence. Just be upfront about it. So you prefer combat. DM clearly is not though, and either does not want to deal with RP, either because they don't like RP, they're not very good at RP, they're not very good at thinking off the cuff or anything like that, or non-violent workarounds, they just don't like those either, if we're talking about stuff outside of RP, or they just default to whatever their favorite Craig prefers, which probably the case here. If we're running a quote realistic campaign, would non-violent routes though be the preferred option? I feel like they would. Gods know if you kill someone in murder hobo fashion, you would be locked up and then tried in a potentially lengthy trial, who then either go to jail for life or be put to death. I feel bad for these new players. This is a horrible intro to TTRPGs. A DM that imposes rules for thee but not for Craig is a bad DM. Don't be a bad DM. When we eventually got the privilege of getting a long rest, we each had to come up with which, quote, downtime activities we'd be up to during that week. Most of the time it was inconsequential flavor with no impact on the game. However, on a few occasions between games, I tried to come up with something more interesting and tried to involve some of the other players. I came up with an elaborate plan to try to scam a scummy merchant we had interacted with by selling him some useless magical bauble for a high price, some party trick item. The scam involved performing something that seemed impossible for him to get interested in this powerful magic item. then making a slick sales pitch, giving a demonstration using my arcane trickster magic, which would, with the help of Sarah, who is also a rogue. Between the pitch, magic, and our 2 sleight of hands, it couldn't possibly fail. Also, we were wearing a pin showing that we're, quote, heroes of Byron Shander, and we're wearing disguises. It was a mini heist for a small amount of gold. The whole thing was creative and solid. He asked us to roll 4 different checks. Performance check was rolled over 20, my sleight of hand over 20, Sarah's sleight of hand over 20, persuasion check was less than 10. The NPC recognizes the bauble as a cheap party trick and laughs at us. He'll pay 5 silver for it, half of its wholesale value. How fun! Nothing ever works. It would have been fun, and we would have made a small amount of gold during our otherwise tedious and useless 1-week rest. Throughout the campaign, we never had gold. We never could buy anything of value. Personally, I love this idea that OP has come up with. They planned it out. It could have a very interesting impact on the world. They did a good job of getting other players at the table involved, because a big part of TTRPGs is teamwork. And if they rolled 3+ checks at over 20 each, I might have just let it go through. This DM clearly doesn't want to let them do anything. If you're going to make them roll persuasion, let it be maybe for the price in this situation. Like, instead of an extravagant price, make it like closer to what the merchant thinks this crazy powerful magic item is worth, or just under. But because a persuasion check was sub 10, like on the roll, he somehow just knows now that it's not legit. Very bad DM in this case. As for like not giving your players money, I can understand keeping your players, quote, hungry, by not giving them a ton of gold. But if they are adventurers doing the hard and dangerous jobs out there, they should be getting paid for it, especially if you're going to be making them do huge bouts of downtime, unless you want them to have to go out and get second jobs or something like that during the downtime, which I guess you could do if your point is the economy's fucked or capitalism sucks or something like that as a story beat, but I don't think that's the case here. I think this DM just sucks. After many months meandering about up north, being led around by Craig, we made our way to Mirabar, then Lascaux. Upon arrival, we do the usual at the end, try to gather some info, then decide to run some errands. We walk out of the inn and split up. After we're some distance from each other, we're ambushed. 5 to 6 thieves jump our wizard and druid. By that time, I'm like 150 feet away from them, so I try to dash towards them. The DM goes, "Why? How would you know they're being attacked?" They didn't say, they yelled. On their next turn, they yell out for help. 2 to 3 turns later, the rest of us start arriving on scene. By that time, our wizard is downed and the druid is barely alive, so we try to assist. On one of his turns, one of the thieves decides to attack our town wizard instead of fighting, permanently killing our wizard. We have no gold, we have no scrolls, no way to revive him. Petty thieves in a city, killing a level 5 to 6 wizard aided by a druid, out of nowhere with no warning. Okay, so unless you have some sort of planned subplot where they have to try to revive the wizard, or want this group of thieves to be like a mini bad guy of sorts, this is kind of fucking dumb. Also, why would petty thieves kill off an adventurer? If they recognize that these people are adventurers, which given how all the NPCs seem to be very intuitive and know everything, they should, you'd think they want to get the fuck out of Dodge and not leave bodies. Bodies cause the law to get involved. More law, more problems. Shit, even a pissed off adventuring party is now a concern for you, especially if you kill off one of their own. They're going to hunt you. Them killing the PC isn't realistic unless they absolutely had to. This DM's not even like sticking to their own realism bullshit at this point, at least in my head here. Maybe I'm off track here. But I think that this fucking DM's way off base. He's just being needlessly cruel to be needlessly cruel. Because if you're gonna be, a criminal, usually, unless you're like a contract killer or something, you don't want bodies. Bodies are bad. Bodies cause the law to get involved. Bodies, like, the law is not good. Like, that causes you to go to jail. This is just a bad DM. Just 100%. Bad DM. Needless to say, Jan is miffed. He spends the rest of the session doing nothing, sitting alone as we fail to bring his character back to life. DM doesn't throw us a bone. Our wizard is permadead from a nothing fight in an area that seems safe. We bury him. Lila and me try to make it a solemn moment. We've lost a friend unceremoniously. Craig is making light of the situation, essentially pissing on our friend's corpse. Okay, again, bad DM, no bone being thrown, and you're leaving it on a PC being killed by just some random fucking thieves in town. It's kind of anticlimactic. Unless this was warned about ahead of time, this kind of crap seems like a gotcha, and it isn't fun. And Craig not being respectful to the fact that a party member died is him just being a douchebag. Craig is kind of just a piece of shit. Let's just 100%. Let's just be honest. Up front, Craig's a piece of crap. Fuck Craig. Next session comes around. Jan made a bard, gave him a fun personality. We get to meet him and wander into Neverwinter Wood on a side quest that, to my understanding, is not from the Storm King's Thunder book. This homebrew takes us to a little encampment with caged animals and clearly evil cultists. We eavesdrop, and obviously they're up to no good. By then we know that the only good approach is violence, so we attack a group that seems manageable. A Medusa-type creature comes out of a building unexpectedly, and just having her in our field of vision causes a very difficult skill check to avoid petrification. On the very first turn, our druid and our bard get petrified. They're out of the fight. At this point, we're heavily metagaming, running around structures to avoid seeing her by using the top-down view on the map. We end up barely surviving. 2 of us are petrified, 2 are down, and I'm barely alive. I get the 2 down players up. The petrified characters are petrified permanently. We spend an inordinate amount of time looking around the encampment to find some sort of solution, but nothing. The statues weigh 800 pounds and they're brittle. We cannot safely transport them. Our druid is gone. Our new bard didn't last a single session. We continue onward to Tribor. I don't know why. I don't care. We try to find a greater restoration scroll in Tribor. It would cost 5 times our combined amount of gold. We can't get a scroll. We can't afford it. We can't find it. We can't barter for it. We can't fight for it. We need 2 of it. This DM does not want to let this party solve problems, which is a huge problem. It seems like this DM just wants to clown on the party and sit back while they struggle, or this DM just doesn't either plan ahead enough or does not know how to improvise at all, on top of the fact that they don't plan ahead. Like, how is offering no solutions a viable means to tell a story? I'll let you in on it. It isn't. This DM is hot garbage, and these players need to run away. Specifically the new ones. Fuck Craig, leave him alone. But they need to run. They need to run far away, and they should have a long time ago. I can understand having, especially if like a couple players are going to be out, having a cool thing where you petrify some of the players, and now it's this weird side quest to get them healed back up. Can't afford a petrification scroll. Maybe a shady dude offers to get them those scrolls, but they have to do something kind of fucked up for him. Or they have to do a heist, and you make the heist somehow manageable, but high stakes. Those could be things that are done. The DM clearly doesn't want to do anything like this, though. They just want to watch the players struggle and make Craig feel like a badass. Bad DM. By the next session, our druid created another character, one she was much less into, and we started going through the motions. Our former wizard, former bard of less than 1 session, also made another character, making sure it wasn't reliant on long rests. We carried on. Craig continued to obliterate everything. We made it to the end of the campaign. It was grueling and annoying. There was a whole arc where me and the other rogue were sent to prison for multiple sessions for trying to steal a quest item from a manor in some city, despite another elaborate plan involving invisibility and stealth and a scroll of silence, despite decent rolls, solid role-playing and decision-making, and level 9 rogues. Somehow, the elite city guards were on point that day, I guess. Nothing ever works. Okay, so unless discussions happen that this campaign was going to be super tough, this sounds like crap D&D. No D&D is better than bad D&D. I know these newer players may not know better, so there's no shade to them in this instance. I just feel bad that this is their first campaign. This whole thing is unbalanced, it's unfun, it's a clusterfuck. They do not deserve to be in this. They shouldn't have to be in this. Craig and DM should fuck off into the sun. Part 2, the players. Lila, who's DMing this time, she's first time DMing. She wrote her own one-shot from top to bottom, painstakingly built Roll20 assets, maps, characters, laid everything out, wrote a whole narrative. She commissioned some pieces of art, fetched other free online assets, did a fantastic job of building up the world. The campaign had a super cool and intriguing name like the Stoneholt Incident, but cooler and better. Our characters are Jake, who is neutral evil, Craig, Sarah, Jan, myself, all playing whatever classes, it doesn't matter. Storm King's ruined D&D for me, but Lila has a story to tell, one that she wrote herself and clearly cared about. For weeks, we've been hearing about the effort she'd been pouring into it. Our party is ushered into a fascinating world full of mystery. We find strange substances that don't belong, myths floating around in ways that we've never seen before. She describes it in a way that is evocative and feels right. After some world building, we reach a town, and immediately it's clear that something isn't right. The people are behaving as if possessed, and they're allowing themselves to die. Craig decides to take the lead. He wants to help the people of the village. Jake disagrees. It's a waste of time. If these people are mind-controlled, it's their fault. After some arguing, he punches Craig's character. Craig thinks it's funny. He punches back. They ask if PvP's allowed. She allows it with a clear sigh of disapproval. Everyone's energy is telling them to stop. Out of character, I plead with them to stay in line. Okay, bad move, new DM. I'm not knocking you because you're a new DM. If you don't want to deal with PvP, just don't allow it. It's a shame that Craig and Jake clearly don't want to participate in this lovingly made one-shot, and it's also a shame that they're not taking into consideration the DM's new and trying to be better players and kinder players to make their first experience DMing one that is much more positive and much easier to do. The first time you're DMing, especially at anything, campaign, one shot, whatever, you are usually internally freaking the fuck out because usually you're laying the tracks out in front of you as you go on whatever you're doing. You're pulling a bunch of levers trying to make the world work, and you're trying to anticipate and handle what other players are doing and all the random shit that's happening. You're also trying to balance it. You're trying to make sure you hopefully have done everything correctly and balanced it. You're trying to make sure your NPCs are interacting correctly. You want to make sure you're putting on your cool voices and all that other shit. It's so much, and it's so stressful. The players, knowing that this is a first-time DM who's going to have to be helming the rules, running everything, making the decisions, improving, coming up with all this stuff, should be giving them the benefit of the doubt and putting their best foot forward and doing their best to go with the flow and make this an easier time for them so that way they enjoy it. But Craig and Jake suck. Let's just be blunt. They suck. We move on from it, roam around town looking for some answers. We hear that the first people who started behaving strangely were at the mayor's house, so we proceed to the mansion. As Sarah, Jan, and myself investigate strange things in the house, we make our way upstairs. Meanwhile, the other two keep bickering downstairs. The tension builds up as we clearly approach some answers and potentially a fight. Suddenly, my character gets attacked by something unseen. I yell out for help and the other two run up the stairs. I don't remember exactly what prompted it, but once in the stairs, they started PvPing again. By now, all three players are pleading with them to stop, but they were deep in the weeds of their, quote, role play. They thought it was the funniest thing as they rolled spells and attacks at each other. Meanwhile, the rest of us are fighting a powerful Oni, and for some reason, the house is set on fire. I don't recall if that was part of the scenario, or if these two players fighting each other set the structure on fire. The three of us ended up being unable to defeat the Oni, and it resulted in a TPK. Lila never complained, but she outright refused to try to run it again. I can't blame her. 5 years later, I haven't gotten over how disrespectful and unapologetic they were. That was fun, they said, as we ended the session. I'll never know what the Stoneholt incident was. Okay. It's a shame the session ended so poorly. It's unfortunate that Craig and Jake clearly don't give a crap about the story being told and that they're horrible fucking human beings. They can't fucking read the room here. Like, I get wanting to be freeform and fuck around, but like, dude, read the room. Not only reading it, but also when you're fucking told by the room as well, like out loud, hey, don't be stupid. Like, maybe then don't be stupid. You know? If you're gonna be rude, you don't deserve to be in on the fun. For newer DMs out there, like a word of advice, don't be afraid to say no. Part of DMing is leading. You may need to curb things and you may need to tell players no. If they don't abide, they can step out and not play. It's a tough skill to learn, but one you'll benefit from greatly by learning it early. Hopefully these people dropped Jake and Craig and have moved on to brighter pastures. I don't know though, but God, I hope they did. Our last story is from user FrostKV and is titled Min-Maxing Player Purposely Gets Us Killed. This campaign was 2 to 3 years ago now, so I don't remember exactly everything that happened. I do, however, remember how one player ended our campaign early by having most of us executed. This was a long campaign at this point. We had been playing for almost a year now, and we had all grown attached to our characters. However, someone in the party had decided that they no longer liked the druid build they've been playing and wanted to change to a different druid build that abused its wild shape mechanics to make him insanely strong. He didn't talk to the DM or anything and just decided the best course of action was to kill his character by starting combat with the first person he saw. We entered a, quote, break town along our path, somewhere to do a job off a job board for gold or buy some new equipment for the party. Me, our rogue, our barbarian, and this guy walked into the local blacksmith to look for some better armor. Me, I was playing a cleric at the time and was walking around with just chainmail. Entering the store without hesitation or reason, the druid lunges at the blacksmith in an attempt to murder him and ransack his store. Really was to get killed, but he told us that this was his reason. Before his demise, the blacksmith triggered some sort of magical alarm that alerted the entirety of the town's guards to our actions, and as such, we were swarmed by an unbeatable amount of guards, and we were ordered to surrender. Okay, hopefully the DM tried stepping in and saying, hey, what you're doing is dangerous, or something. Or above table conversations happened, like, hey, DM, I don't agree with this, and I refuse to participate in game, like if that was happening, or, you know, hey, DM, I totally understand what we're doing here. I know it's fucking stupid, but it's what my character would do. I'd like to go, and continue this on. Fuck whatever the consequences are. Who cares? Something, like, sometimes it helps to have above table conversations. This led to him wild shaping into a bear and charging into the crowd of guards to try and get away. He did not. This dragged everyone into an impossible fight, excluding our bard, who couldn't make the session but was okay with us playing without them. We got our asses kicked and our barbarian was slain by the town guard. This led to me, the rogue, and our problem druid to be arrested and thrown in jail. And during our daring attempt to get out, being just me and the rogue, the druid did nothing but argue with the barbarian. He just got murdered. A guard had began to walk by to check up on us. Okay, I feel like those that didn't want to participate in the stupidity could have decided to just step aside and let that PC get their ass kicked by the guards. I sure as shit would have if I was a PC in this. I get punishing people for being dumb, but it is a tad harsh to kill the barbarian for the druid being a fucking idiot. It doesn't hurt to have above table conversations again about things that are happening. Also, if you don't want to play a PC anymore, just fucking talk to your DM. Don't just try to fucking get him killed off. Like, you should be having friendly conversations with your DM about how the game is going and everything. Just being like, hey DM, you know, I'm playing this druid. I'm not really feeling him anymore. I found this cool build I want to try. Like, is there any way I could swap characters or we could morph my build into this or something like that? Like, talk it out with your fucking DM. Don't just be like, well, don't want to play this PC anymore. Better go fucking walk them into traffic in a violent sense. Like, bruh. The rogue, who's an arcane trickster, had decided to escape with Dimension Door, and I stayed behind to try and free our druid. I don't entirely remember how. Maybe the rogue had helped. I had disguised myself as a guard and attacked, quote unquote, our druid by cutting his hand to deceive the guard into thinking I was just being cruel to our captives. This convinced the guard and also our druid, apparently. He began to adamantly refuse to be unchained by me or to leave the cell with me because he, quote, didn't trust I was actually myself. Keep in mind, I was chained up with him not 10 minutes ago. I tried to break out with him and was disguised in front of his eyes, yet he still refused to come along. After a lot of bickering and another fight with the guards that led to my capture once again, we had both been sentenced to execution. A feeble attempt at saving us resulted in the death of me, the druid, and the rogue, and the immediate end to our campaign, as losing 4 of our 5 characters resulted in all investment into the story dying. We kicked him out and cut off all contact with this guy. I was a bit mad at our DM at first, but looking back now, he gave us several attempts to surrender, escape jail, or to not even start this whole situation in the first place. We've moved on to newer campaigns now, but the memory of this moment still makes me angry. Okay, being mad at that jackass player, I get it. Be mad at him. But if your DM gives you an out, especially several, like, fucking take the outs they're giving you. Like, just because a jackass is throwing themselves off a cliff doesn't mean that you too need to throw yourself off a cliff. Like, I get it. We get caught up in the moment and we do dumb shit in game. But have above table conversations, or take a moment to breathe and kind of center yourself so you don't just like keep doing dumb shit. Like, part of the blame is on Druid for being a fucking moron and doing stupid shit trying to get himself killed. But also, part of it's on OP for going along with it and diving off that cliff too. Like, I get being mad at DM, but remember that actions do have consequences, and they apparently gave you several outs. And you didn't take any of them. And I get it. Stuff gets heated, shit's happening in the moment, you're trying to react as quick as you fucking can, because you're just like, oh shit, everything's on fire, the room's on fire, what do we do? You know, I get it. But sometimes it pays to have above table conversations if things are going off the rails. You know, ask the DM, hey, where is this heading? What is happening here? What could happen here? Is there a good chance our players are going to die, our PCs? You know, hey DM, I didn't mean to do this. How do we fix it somehow? Like, is it meta to do this? Sure. But it'll help you to not destroy a long-running campaign due to somebody else's negligence and stupidity. Okay. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. That's going to be it for me today. Please remember to like, subscribe, and catch me on Twitch. Also, let me know what your thoughts are on any of these stories. Do you agree with any of my thoughts? Do you disagree with any of my thoughts here? I would love to hear about that in those comments down below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, everybody.